everyone, thanks so much for taking the time to watch this short 5-minute video. We're going to show you some of the ins and outs of the study for a Disciples Path and help you be prepared before your first class meets. We're really excited. There's over 35 groups studying this together, and we've handed out over 1,000 workbooks to people in the congregation over the last few weeks. So I'm John Borlo, the Director of Adult Education.
And I'm Michael LeBlanc. For most of my time here at Hyde Park, I'm the Assistant Youth Director. But for the fall, I am helping out with the launch of this year's fall classes.
So in this video, Michael and I are going to walk you through some of the ins and outs of the study to help you lead your groups. We're going to walk you through this week's discussion, but what we show you will relate to each week's lesson coming up as well. So we're going to be starting with session 1, and we're going to skip the introductory session slash the pastor's copy. In case you read through your leader's guide and saw that, if there's some things that you think are great and important that you'd like to go over, feel free to cover those, but we really want you just to dive right into chapter 1. So let's take a look at the resources you have first. You should have gotten a box kit from me from my office. In case you haven't yet, please get it, but it has a leader's guide with a handy-dandy CD-ROM in the back. There's a companion reader with extra theological and biblical background written by Jim Harnish. And then the daily workbook that was written by Jim and Justin LaRosa here at the church, Jim Harnish and Justin LaRosa. This is the book that everyone in your class should have. And then the companion reader is optional, but it is for purchase in the bookstore, and you can let people know that they can come and get it still for only $7.50, and each chapter goes along with that week's lessons. So the leader's pack that you're given is all you need to lead this. There are some things on the CD-ROM that you're welcome to use, but completely not necessary. If you end up wanting to make copies of any handouts in there, we have a copy machine here at the church, and we can make those for you.
To start with, we wanted to go over the basic outline of your class. You can find a minute-to-minute breakdown of each class on page 6. The following pages have lots of great hints and tips for facilitating, preparation, and generating group discussion. Since there's so much to cover in your class, it's very important that you start on time. And also, since we have so many classes meeting, and because you want to be respectful of people's time, you need to make sure that you finish on time as well. Every class you will lead your group in about 5 minutes of signing in, discussing objectives and introduction, about 45 minutes in the hour-long class of workbook discussion, and then about 10 minutes of summation and looking forward to next week. This flow will help keep you on schedule while at the same time allowing for free discussion and growth as a group. If your class meets for 90 minutes, say on Wednesday night or off campus if you choose to, there are different breakdowns that you can find in your leader's guide as well.
So now let's take a minute to unpack those steps. All right, so if you open your leader's guide to page 17, you'll see session 1, a disciple's path defined. Each lesson guide starts with preparation for you, for the leader, and it'll talk to you about the things to read in the workbook, the things to cover to go over in the leader's guide so you're ready, and also the chapter to read in the companion reader. And then there are some scripture passages that go with the assigned readings for the week. You'll also see some things that relate to the CD-ROM, and again, just remember that these are optional, but can sometimes be helpful. So, the next thing, Michael?
The next thing you'll see on page 17, leading towards page 18, are the first parts of your class. Since this is the first class, you'll need to explain some of the rules that will help the class move smoothly. In every class, however, you'll want to write out the objectives for each class. You'll find the objectives for this first class on page 18. These objectives will help the people in your small group to know where the class is heading and what they can expect. After this step, lead your group in prayer. After prayer, either invite a member of your group to read the biblical foundation for the class or read the passage yourself. For this week, the biblical foundation can be found on page 19.
All right, so the main crux of the next 45 minutes of your class is the workbook discussion section. And so you'll see where it talks about the different discussion questions in your leader's guide, and then you'll see all the different discussion things in the workbook. And these are related specifically to the daily readings and exercises that people have done each day, hopefully leading up to when you meet. Okay? So since this is your first class, there's a chance that some members of your group won't have done those daily readings, and that's okay. Let them know, no matter what you've done, you'll be able to do it. And so just assume that probably the majority of the people have not done the reading. But if they've done it, great. It's a bonus to you. But you really want to stress the importance of doing the daily readings as the weeks go on here. All right, and then when it comes to leading the discussion, there are some different options. Our suggestion would be to read through all the questions ahead of time and make sure you know the ones that you think are important. Some questions are going to relate more to some groups than others, and as you go on with your group, weeks 2 and beyond, you'll know your people a little bit more and what's going to speak the best to them. And one of the just 2 other quick points is it's okay to leave some room for silence, just like that. Sometimes you can pause and you can ask a question, you can put a thought out there, and see what people think. Sometimes people need a little bit of time to process it. So if you ask a question and nobody answers, I say, Michael, hey, how's your last week been related to work and life? And if he doesn't answer in 2 seconds, I'm not going to jump in and tell him how my last week's been, because I'm still waiting for him to think about an answer. And so give people just a little bit of time to respond. You may even have to rephrase the question in case they didn't get it quite right the first time. And then the second big thing is to know, Michael talked a lot about time, starting and ending on time. Well, it's your responsibility to be the timekeeper. And so you know that where you're starting, and then please know where you want to end with the most important question at the end. And everything in the middle, if you have to skip questions 4 and 5 because you really want to get to question 7, that's okay. Don't feel bad if you don't hit every single question. It's going to happen. And remember, the people in the group don't know exactly what your lesson plan is. So,
after you discuss the workbook readings, you'll want to allow 10 minutes for a glimpse forward to what the class will read at home, as well as a short discussion of what each member of the class is going to take home with them, their aha moment, if you would. Then close with prayer.
And just about the prayer, Michael, too. In case you haven't read through the leader guide yet, you'll notice for the opening prayers and the closing prayers, there are prayers written in the book. It also says that you can open and close with a spontaneous prayer. That's fine. But one of the neat things with written prayers, if you've never done it before, is you can actually have the whole group read them together, or have just a volunteer read it. If people have never prayed out loud before, sometimes it's really easy to read when it's already written out for you. So try that. And then one last thing for this week is, we just said a second ago to not talk too much, to not answer your own questions and things, because you're the facilitator, but this week in particular, to go over the discipleship pathway and all the important parts of that as outlined. There is a PowerPoint presentation available on the CD-ROM if you want to bring your laptop in, but if not, the workbook has them listed out there. So for instance, week 1, day 2, you'll see the relationship stages slide. We really want to make sure you get through each slide of the pathway with people, so they have this for the foundation. And then week 1, day 3, there's 2 different slides here: roles and responsibility, God's role, and so on for each day. So again, please make sure you get through those. This week will require you to talk a little bit more, but know that as it goes on, the other people in your group will be a little bit more comfortable with talking with everybody, and it'll be easier to ask some people to share as well. So feel free to ask either one of us any other questions. You can reply to my email, and we're here to help as your group starts meeting. We hope you have a great time. This is exciting. We'll be praying for you.